Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is the 4-hit combo with the charge attack at the end. All you're going to do is do the 4-hit combo, and when you stop like that, you're going to put the charge attack at the end. This will allow your damage output to be the greatest compared to just finishing out the 5-hit combo. As you can see, I destroy these slimes in search for my common chest, which are pretty hard to find when you get high in level. Another technique I like to use while in combat with Qiqi is a dodge and attack. Not finishing my combo and knocking my enemies down. Just doing the 4-hit combo, quickly dashing behind them or around them, and keep spamming that attack. Now this fits my playstyle more because, you know, I'm more of a dodge, weave around my enemies, and hit them with quick attacks. More so, I do use the charge attack method because it's a less stamina, so I like to combine them both. So you'll see me do this and then dash around. This is what I prefer because it doesn't use up that much stamina. And when my stamina gets low, just go ahead and finish the combo and then quickly dash towards them. Qiqi's basic attack is what makes Qiqi, for the most part, Qiqi. If you don't utilize her basic attack, you're pretty much missing out on over 50% of her entire kit. Now, there are instances where you can just use her as, you know, a healer, just to use her elemental skill, or just elemental burst, but I feel like using her basic attack can allow you to take full advantage of Qiqi. Now, in terms of aesthetics, power, and how easy it is to get, compared to some of the other 4-star weapons in the game, the Black Sword is my choice of weapon when it comes to Qiqi. At max level of 90, the base attack scales at 510, and the crit rate is even increased by about 28%, which is essential for dealing more consistent damage. Plus, the sword can even heal you when you take a look at its description. But I'll be honest, since you're playing Qiqi, you barely even notice this effect. As a result, I highly recommend you get this sword. This can be obtained by locking the battle pass at AR20, buying the paid version, which is about $10 US, and reaching level 30. Now, as a good alternative, the prototype ranker is an excellent choice, and it was my choice of weapon for a while before I got my hands on the Black Sword. The physical damage substat pairs perfectly with Qiqi, since you're going to be using your physical attacks most of the time. Plus, the description effect Smash Stone increases your attack and defense by 5% every time you land a normal or charged attack, which can stack up to 4 times, increasing it to a total of 20%, and further increasing your overall DPS. Now, as the third option, I recommend the Favonius Sword or the Flute. The Favonius Sword has a subset of energy recharge, so if you're trying to use Qiqi's ultimate as much as possible, then this sword is the way to go. The Flute, on the other hand, has a subset of attack percent, which is what Qiqi's heals are based on when Jack of the Frost is on the field. Plus, the description effect has an AoE damaging effect, which can also be really good in combat. Now, as a warning to new players or players that may be doing what I'm about to say right now, I do not recommend going all in on weapons other than 4 stars or above. I know it might seem good at first, but if you're getting into things, you will soon find out that resources are not something you will have a lot of, and you should avoid this so you do not end up feeling like you wasted time, effort, and resources to upgrade a weapon that you're never going to use again, or get your value back in enhancing in the later stages of the game. Now it's time to get into the most important part of any character, the artifacts. I will be showcasing 2 builds that would be good depending on what you intend to use Qiqi for. Now, I recommend the 2-piece Bloodstain set and the 2-piece Gladiator set. This will increase your physical damage output for DPS, and also the attack percent increase you get from the Gladiator set will also increase your overall DPS. And as a bonus, this will also increase Qiqi's healing while Jack of the Frost is on the field, since her healing scales with her attack percent. So this is a best of both worlds situation. Now, another set you can use is the 4-piece Gladiator set. This set provides a 35% increase to a wielder of a sword. And what do you know? Qiqi happens to use a sword. And you will also get the 18% attack increase with this 2-piece effect. Currently, I don't have 4 pieces of gladiators, so I wasn't able to show you in this menu, but just know this is another set that you could run. I recommend the 2-piece Bloodstained and the 2-piece Gladiator, because of the big fact that Gladiator only drops from bosses and not domains. This makes it 1000% harder to farm and get the substat that you want, when you have to spend 40 energy for a chance that you won't even get a Gladiator's piece, and even if you do get one, the main stat or substat might not even be good. Hence, why I recommend a 2-piece Bloodstained, since it's easier to farm, and a 2-piece Glad with good substats is a lot more realistic to get than just 4 pieces. For example, I have tried to gear Official plenty of times, and in the end, I ended up gearing Beto because I just couldn't get the stats that I needed for Official. Now let's get into the main stats and substats for each individual piece. Now for your Flower, Land, and Feather, these are always going to be flat HP and flat attack. So let's talk about the substats. Now, in a perfect world, the stats that you're going to want are crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. Now crit rate and crit damage are your most important. After these two, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge are all icing on the cake. As you can see, I have 20% crit damage, which I know is crazy, with a 3.5% crit rate. Now this is good enough for use. Now the flat attack and flat defense are the worst stats in the game. I kinda wish this could have been energy recharge, elemental mastery, or attack percent, but sometimes it just doesn't roll that way. Anyways, getting crit damage and crit rate is good enough. Now let's get into the feather. Now your feather is always going to have flat attack, no matter what. So let's talk about the substats. Now just like the flower, you're gonna want crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. Thankfully, I was able to get crit damage at 14.8% and crit rate at 6.2%. Unluckily, I got defense plus 63, the worst stat in the game, and I got HP plus 209. Now, just a heads up, anytime you get a flat something like no percentage, it just says plus 63 or plus 300 or something like that, know that it didn't go your way. Those are the worst stats in the game. Just a heads up. Now let's get into the timepiece. For your timepiece, you're going to want attack percent as your main stat. For the substats, you're still going to want crit damage, crit rate, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. Now you're probably wondering, why don't you want attack percent as your substat? Well, if you have attack percent as your main stat, you cannot have it again as your substat. This goes for any other stat in the game. So for instance, if this was crit rate as my main stat, I would not be able to have crit rate as my substat again. For the cup, you will have 2 options. For your main stat, you can either go with an attack percent cup, or you can go with a physical damage bonus cup. Now I would say 3 options, but I do not recommend a cryo damage bonus cup, because Qiqi has a cooldown. Cooldown. Hard emo. For the cup, you will have 2 options. For your main stat, you can go with attack percent, or you can go with a physical damage bonus cup. I do not recommend a cryo damage bonus cup because Qiqi has a long cooldown time on Jack of the Frost, and even while it is active, the cryo damage output is not consistent. And while her ultimate does do some cryo damage, it is not something that is more consistent than just attacking with Qiqi's normal attacks. For your substats, you're going to want crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. Now for the crown or helmet, you actually have 3 options. You can go with an attack percent helmet as your main stat. If you have a bare minimum of 40% crit rate or higher, you can go with a crit damage helmet. This is what I currently use, and it just skyrockets your damage output. Now, as your third option, you can also go with a crit rate helmet, but I feel like this isn't worth since you can obtain crit rate from other places. But then again, the same thing could be said about crit damage and attack percent. However, if your crit rate is very low, then this is an option for you. try experimenting with that one. For substats, you can either go with crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. Now keep in mind, like I said before, if your main stat, for example, is crit rate, you cannot have crit rate again as your substat. So just keep that in mind when you're building your character. Now as for sets, you're going to want the 4-piece maiden set for the best healing output. This increases your healing effectiveness by 15%, and it also increases the healing received by all members of the party by 20% for 10 seconds every time you use an elemental skill or a burst. Now, let's get into the artifact's main stats and substats that you're going to want for this pure heal build. Now for your flower, your main stat will always be flat HP, so let's focus on the substats. For the substats, you're going to want attack percent, energy recharge, crit rate, then crit damage. Now you're probably wondering, why is crit rate and crit damage so low on the list? Well, this is a pure heal build, and Qiqi's heals scale with her attack percent. Critical hits do not result in a critical heal. Energy recharge is also needed for you to spam your ultimate as fast as possible. For your feather, your main stat is always going to be flat attack, so we will also focus on the substats here. You're going to want attack percent, energy recharge, crit rate, and crit damage, the same as your flower. Now let's move into the timepiece. For your timepiece, you're going to want attack percent as your main stat. For your substats, you're going to want energy recharge, crit rate, crit damage, and elemental mastery. Since attack percent is your main stat, you cannot have it again as your substat. Now for your cup, you're going to want attack percent as your main stat also. For your substats, you're going to want energy recharge, crit rate, crit damage, and elemental mastery, the same as your timepiece. Now, for the helmet or crown, you're going to have two options. You can go with an attack percent main stat, or you can go with a healing bonus main stat. A healing bonus helmet will increase your heals much more than an attack percent helmet, but if you're a little hesitant about losing out on some damage, then attack percent is the way to go for you. For your substats, you're going to want energy recharge, crit rate, crit damage, and elemental mastery. Now, if you're using a healing bonus helmet, then you're going to want attack percent to be in your substats instead. Now, as you can see, I do not have any constellations, and I probably never will. However, if you are interested to know which constellations to aim for, then I recommend Constellation 2 or 6. With Frozen to the Bone, this basically increases your normal attack damage by 15% every time you use Jack of the Frost to apply cryo damage to your enemies, or any other cryo teammate to do that for you. At Rite of Resurrection, you are given a revive ability that revives not one, but all fallen members with 50% of their HP. And if you've ever been to Abyss, then you know how handy this ability can be when your top DPS just goes down, thanks to an Anemo boxer. Because we all know how annoying Anemo boxers can be. For your talents, all of them are equally good, but for which one you should level up first depends on your build. If you're running a DPS build, then the normal attack talent is one you should prioritize. If you're running a healing build, then you're going to want to prioritize Herald of the Frost and Preserver of Fortune. Even with that said, Qiqi is someone where all of them are equally important, no matter what build you run. So, for your talents, you're going to have to level them up equally as you move along through the game. You don't want to leave any of them behind because you don't want to slack off in healing, and you don't want to slack off in attack power. Now as for life prolonging methods, this is a really good talent for healing, but to be honest, I never really noticed it in combat. Mainly because when I see Qiqi healing, I just assume it's coming from her skills. Whatever the case is, it is a really good talent, and as long as it helps you, it's good. Now as for the talent, A Glimpse into Arcanum, this is the best talent that Qiqi has, and whoever named it deserves a medal, because it's a perfect name for how it works. This basically allows you to mark enemies with a Preserver Talisman whenever Qiqi lands a normal or charge attack for 6 seconds, similar to how her ultimate is able to put talismans on enemies around her, which is huge for healing. Whenever I see an enemy marked and I have a character on low HP, I can simply switch to them, heal that character, and switch right back to Qiqi. The talent is one of the best in the game and gives you a little sneak peek on what's to come when your ultimate ability is ready to be activated. Last but not least is the Former Life Memories talent. Now, if you're exploring in Liyue and notice this icon on your minimap, this means this is a resource that can only be found in this region, and this icon is only displayed to you thanks to having Qiqi in your party with this talent unlocked. It's great for completing the battle pass where you have to collect 100 Liyue specialties, or just going around and exploring. Qiqi is an amazing hero and a great addition to any team. If you learned anything new in this video, consider dropping a like, and I'll be dropping more build videos like this and other Genshin Impact related content, so if you're interested in seeing that, also consider subscribing and turning on that bell. And don't forget to comment down below on some builds that you use on Qiqi that I didn't mention in this video. We all want to get stronger, so I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.